You can see that
Sir?
like I was saying, you can see that there is a need in your environment for a particular commodity, and you have all it takes. You have the money, you have the facility, and you have the time. Though that is not your line of business, but you even have the experience. You have the technical know-how of how to make that commodity available, and you see that that commodity is scarce in your area. You understand? People need that commodity almost every day and in large quantities. They are going to travel across states, maybe 5 states, before they can get that commodity. So what do you think you are going to do about that particular need of the society?
I'll produce it to provide income for myself.
Yes, you produce it. Number one, okay, to provide income. Number two is to meet the need of the society. You understand? Because if there is no demand for whatever it is you are selling or producing, then the production might be a waste. Yes or no?
Yes.
So we can really say that in the light of it, you say demand gives birth to supply. Is that taken?
Yes, sir.
Because it's the demand now that makes you to think that, oh, why can't I go in the line of this particular business? So now, what is demand? In your own way, how can you define demand?
Well, I say demand can be defined as the commodity which is requested by the people.
Okay, commodity requested by the people. That means the people are willing to, buy a particular thing. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So I want to talk about what is demand. I'll be sharing some details with you shortly so that you can get going. So talking about demand, what is demand in economics? I'm going to bring up the definition now. Go through the definition together, and you're going to ask questions, or you're going to tell me whether you understand what the definition is saying. Let me bring this up to the screen for you so that you can see it. So in economics, demand is the number of consumers. No, okay, you can't see that one. That bring it down. In economics, demand is the number of consumers are willing to purchase goods or services at a certain price. Supply is the other side of demand. So businesses that accurately meet demand with their supply of products or services greatly benefit in profit and the heightened brand awareness. So what is that saying? It's telling us that the number of consumers, I just gave you a scenario about your society, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So the number of people, number of consumers that are willing to purchase a particular kind of good or a particular kind of service at a certain price, we can say that is what demand means. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, when I asked you, I said, what is demand? There's a relationship between demand and supply, or between supply and demand. I was asking you, or I was telling you, I said, demand gives birth to supply. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So it was the demand in your environment that makes you think of, oh, let me actually go into a particular line of business since I have all it takes. And not because I want to do charity, or because it can even fetch me some sort of income. So here now, we'll be talking about what is now the, let's assume Waek asked you to explain the relationship between supply and demand, what are you to put down? Let's see. Excuse me. Now, if demand is the quantity that consumers are willing to buy at a given price, then supply is the quantity the producers are willing and are able to offer. So the price of goods and services is determined by the supply in the market and the demand for them. The supply in the market and the demand for them. What does that mean? The first line says demand is the quantity that the consumers are willing to buy at a given price. Then the supply is also the quantity that the producers are willing to offer. At times, the consumers might require just little of that product. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And the producer will be able or be willing to give much of the product out, and people will not be willing to buy that much. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And at times, the consumers might be demanding for the product at a very high rate. The quantity is very large, but the consumers are limited. I mean, the producers are now limited. They cannot offer much. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And there are situations whereby the consumers are demanding, the producers are producing, and it is now equal. So the number of quantity demanded is now equal to the number of quantity supplied. Yeah. So now let's talk about the second sentence. The second one says the price of goods and services is determined by the supply in the market. That's one factor. It's a very good question. Which of the following determine the price of goods and services in the market, or in the environment? You can say by what? The supply of that goods or supply of that services or the supply of that good in the market. If the supply of that good and service, if the supply is very large, there are hundreds of people selling it. You understand me? Then there is no point raising the price of that commodity unnecessarily. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
But if it is only one person or just two that are selling that particular commodity in a particular area, and before you meet and down, you have to trek long distances, so they can increase the price. And when they inflate the price or they increase the price, they will know that you have no choice than to buy it. Otherwise, you have to transport yourself to another location. So if you consider adding the transportation fare, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. If you consider adding the transportation fare, then you will now say, okay, it's better I buy from this person, though at another location they are selling it 100 naira. But before I transport myself to that location, I will spend 50 naira. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So your transport to the location is 50 naira. Your transport from the location is 50 naira. That is 100 naira. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Simply because you want to buy a product which is 100 naira. That means you will spend 200 naira. Yes.
Yes, sir.
And the person selling it around you refused to sell it at the same 100 naira. The person said, my own is 160. He is making 60 naira additional profit ahead of those who are selling it at 100 naira at another location. For you will not find it wise to travel to another location to buy it 100 naira. So you'll be forced to buy it at what? 160 naira. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So that is what we're saying. So the price of goods and service is determined by the supply in the market. And also, it is also determined by the demand for that good or the demand for that service. Let me put this. Students use pen, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, which color of pen do students use most? Is it blue or red?
Blue.
Aha, so either blue or black. And black, not most students even use black. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So now, in a particular place, a person might decide to sell red pen, maybe 30 naira, and sell blue pen 50 naira, because he knows that people will demand for blue pen more than red pen. So he wants to make more profit from what people are demanding for every time. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So, and that is the same thing that do happen when there is fuel scarcity. It's not that the filling station did not have fuel, but because you know that there might be, an increase in fuel, or they are not going to supply fuel in the next few days, then he wants to make the profit of those days so that he can keep his business running. Then he will inflate the price of the fuel. Then the fuel that's supposed to go for maybe 150 naira per liter, we start selling for 250 naira per liter. So now the next sentence says, when the supply is low and the demand is high, then the price will increase. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
When the supply is low, supply is not enough, but the demand is high. So if the supply is low and the demand is low, the price will not increase. Are you with me? But
Yes,
when the supply is low, meanwhile the demand is high, then the price will increase. And when the supply is high, while the demand is low, then the sellers or the producers will reduce the price in order to encourage people to buy more. You understand? Because the supply is high and the demand is low. Then what is equilibrium? The equilibrium price is the price where the quantity consumers purchase equals to the quantity producers supply. Okay? So the price at that time is called equilibrium price. It's called equilibrium price. So we're going to continue now. Further explanation about demand, definition of demand or relationship between demand and supply. So let me clear the screen then and move on. So we're still talking about relationship between demand and supply. Now, in economy, said the demand is the quantity of goods that consumers are willing and are able to purchase at various prices during a given time. So then the relationship between the price and the quantity demanded is called the demand curve. Take note of that. If you are given the prices of commodity and the number of positive demand at various times, maybe after 2 weeks or after whatever, or on so date, if you plot that graph, it's going to give you a curve, and that curve is called the demand what? Demand curve. So demand for a specific item is a function of an item's perceived necessity, price, perceived quality, convenience, available alternatives, purchasers' disposable income, taste, and many other options. This is simply telling us factors that can affect demand. Okay? Factors that can do what? Affect the demand for a commodity. Yeah. So number one factor is that item a necessity that the person needed. You understand me? If it's a necessity, then they are going to demand for it. Then, is the price considerable? Is there no alternative? Yeah. Is it of a good quality? Or is there convenience in getting it? Or is there available alternatives to that particular commodity? Or can I dispose? Is there income, that I can dispose in purchase of that thing? Then does that thing go with my taste and many other options? So those are the factors that affect the demand of the commodity. And if those factors affect the demand, definitely it's going to affect the supply as well. Is that taken?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we continue by mentioning other factors and circumstances that affect consumers' willingness to buy so goods, as I just mentioned above. So let me bring up that one so that we can get going. And in the next, I think 8 minutes or whatever, we're going to round up the economics class so that we can move to English, and after which we go into government. So here now, we're still talking about factors affecting demand. That is factors affecting consumers' willingness. You know, the demand is consumers' willingness, yes or no? To buy.
Yes, sir.
So, innumerable factors and circumstances affect the consumer's willingness or to buy a good. Consumers' willingness to buy a good. So, some of the factors are enumerated here. Let me remove this off. To buy a good. So the price of the commodity is the first factor we are looking at. The basic demand relationship is between potential prices of a good and the quantities that will be purchased at those prices. Generally, the relationship is negative, meaning that an increase in price will induce a decrease in the quantity demanded. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
For example, you know there's inflation in Nigeria currently.
Yes.
As in things are expensive, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, because things are expensive, we were discussing this morning on the assembly, and a teacher was saying, I work in a boarding school, and the principal was, talking about the feeding of the children, how the market prices of food has affected what they used to offer the children in the dining hall. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, the teacher now raised a point. She said, in my house, I told my children, you can't have bread, egg, and tea at the same time anymore. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Why did she say that? She said, it's either you have bread and tea or bread and egg. Do you understand? Are you getting that? So why is the teacher saying that? Why is the teacher saying that? Because if she's going to provide the three at a single meal, then the price, and since the price of those things have increased, do you understand me? Then the price that he will use to provide only bread and egg today is the same price she was using to provide bread, egg, and tea previously. Let's do the analysis. Let's assume bread was sold for 350 naira. Maybe an egg was sold before for 50 naira. Are you with me? That's 400 naira.
Yes, sir.
And if you are to take tea, maybe each sachet is 50 naira. And that is 100 naira also, making 500 naira. So you use 500 naira to provide bread, egg, and tea for a particular child. Now, the price of bread has risen from 350 to 600 naira. Are you getting something?
Yes, sir.
Now, the price of egg rose from 50 naira to 100 naira per one. And the price of tea, maybe instead of using 100 naira, you end up using 200 naira. Now, what is 600 plus 100 plus 200? How much is that?
900.
900. So you end up having to use 900 to provide a meal instead of 500. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, in order to cut it down, you are now like, okay, my boy, I can't give you that 600 bread. We are going to buy half of it, which is 300. Then, if we are going to produce egg, and also produce tea, and also produce tea, it will affect. So I'm going to be spending, instead of 200 and 100 now, I don't want to add 200 and 100 to 300 to make 600. I still want to put it within the 500 naira. So 300 plus 200 for the tea, making 500. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Then
Yes,
you
sir.
have removed the egg completely. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Aha. That is what this particular part is saying. It said, if the price increase, there will be an induced decrease in the quantity that will be demanded. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir.
Now, the same thing with turkey, kilo of turkey or kilo of anything fish you buy in the market. When it was maybe 700 naira, you can say, hey, Mr. Man, give me 5 kilos. And that's 700 times 5 is 3,500 naira. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, but now today, 1 kilo is 3,500. You don't want to buy 5 kilo anymore. You just say, Mr. Man, give me 1 kilo. You are still spending the same amount. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
But is it the same quantity now?
No.
The quantity has been reduced. And that is what we are talking about when we say if the price increase, the quantity decrease. Is that clear to you?
Yes.
Now, this negative relationship is embodied in the downward slope of the consumer demand curve. Then, the assumption of a negative relationship is reasonable and intuitive. For example, if the price of a gallon of milk were to rise from $5 to a price of $15, that will that will be a big price increase. So, such a significant price increase causes the consumer to demand less of that product at the same price. At the price of $15. Not only because it is more expensive, but the new price is very unreasonable for a gallon of milk. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So that is where we're going to be ending it on the concept of demand, but that's not the end of demand. We still have a lot of things to look at in our next economics class. So just stay tuned for the link to the next class. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So continue from there. Today we're looking at complex sentence, then we look at compound sentences, the compound and complex sentences. So let me share the screen with you. Okay, going right. Compound sentence is the next thing that we're going to look at. A simple sentence. A compound sentence contains at least 2 independent clauses. I think the last time we talked about dependent and independent clauses. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So please
always
go through them so that you can always refresh your memory so that whenever you have the need of this, you know what to do. So a compound sentence contains at least 2 independent clauses. These 2 independent clauses can be combined together with a comma or a coordinating conjunction or with a semicolon. So with that, we use it to make a compound sentence. Let me bring it. See. So this is it. So it consists of at least 2 independent clauses. So take note of that. Then, for example, let's look at example of compound sentences. So example 1, she completed a review and she created a reference list. These are 2 independent clauses. The first clause is she completed a review.
She completed a review.
She completed a review. Then the second is she created a reference list. So joining those 2 together forms a compound sentence. Then we have something like she completed her literature review and she created a reference list. So this is an example of a compound sentence. So we're going to look at complex sentence. So let's look at one more example. This one says he organized his sources by theme. Then he updated his reference list, by just using the same thing to go online with that example. So put it there. He organized his sources by theme. Then he updated his reference list. So you notice in the first one, we use comma, we use conjunction, which is and the comma. Then in the second one, we use semicolon. Then we use comma. And we use semicolon and we use comma. So there is another example. They studied upper rules for many hours, but they realized there was still much to learn. This is a compound sentence as well. They studied upper rules for many hours, but they realized. So, but is a conjunction. Yes, coordinating conjunction. They studied upper rules for many hours, but realized there was still much to learn. So, if you are asked to write compound sentences, just make sure it has at least two independent clauses. So it might now be two independent clauses with maybe a subordinate clause, whatever, but at least two independent clauses should be there, which is joined together by using a comma or a coordinating conjunction or semicolon or combination of those three. Yes. So technically, the next thing we'll move to under this aspect is complex sentences. Complex sentences. So I'm going to clear the screen now that we can look at what complex sentence is all about. So complex sentences. Yes. We say a complex sentence contains at least one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. At least one independent and at least one dependent clause. Dependent clauses can refer to the subject, who, which, the sequence, time, since, when, while, or the casual element because of the independent clauses. So these are just telling you what used to introduce dependent clauses. So it could be introduced by who, by which, by since, by while, by because, by if. If a sentence begins with a dependent clause, note the comma after this clause. If, comma, on the other hand, comma, the sentence begins with an independent clause. Then, if the sentence begins with an independent clause, there is no comma. Yes, there's no comma separating. So let me edit this. So there is no comma separating the two clauses together if it begins with an independent clause. But if it begins with a dependent clause, then there must be comma that is separated. So take note of that. We're going to look at examples now on the complex sentences. Here are a few examples. The first example says, although she completed her literature review, she still needed to work on a methods section. So let me put that down as the example. So here is it. First example there. So although she completed her literature review, she still needed to work on her method. So what is the word that introduced the dependent clause, or what is the dependent clause there? Although she completed her literature review. Because if I just make this as a sentence, although she completed her literature review. That doesn't make a complete sense. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
Until you add the remaining part of the sentence to make it. But if I say she still needed to work on a method section, yeah, that makes sense. You are still communicating. Even if you don't put still, you can say she needed to work on a method section. That is complete. But the although she completed her literature review cannot stand alone in that regard. So you now say although she completed. Now note the comma in this section because we begin with a dependent clause. So there's a comma there because what? It begins with what?
Starting with the dependent clause.
Dependent clause. Very good. So we're going to look at some more example. Let's look at the example. Next example now. So here is another example. Because he organized his sources by theme, it was easier for his readers to follow. Now, if there is no because there, he organized his sources by theme could have been an independent clause. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But because of the because that we use there, which is a conjunction as well. So because he organized sources by theme, comma, it was easier for his readers to follow. So note the comma in this section because it also begins with a dependent clause. Yes. So here we have another example. Let's look at it. Let me bring up the example here. So here is it. The example says, they studied apparel for many hours as they were so interested. Now, let's look at this. They studied apparel for many hours as they were so interested. Note that there is no comma in this sentence because it begins with an independent clause. Take note. Begins with what?
An independent clause.
Aha. So the independent clause is they studied apparel for many hours. Okay. But
Yes,
as
sir.
they were so interesting and independent. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So as they were so interesting. So but you don't need any comma because the first part makes complete sense on its own. So using some complex sentences in your writing allows for more variety of sentences to use, particularly in your essay when you are writing. So you don't just begin to write simple sentences. You write simple sentence, you write compound sentence, then you write complex sentence. With that, it will create beauty in your essay composition. Is that noted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we have looked at, well, there's another kind of a sentence that is called compound complex sentences. So let's look at what that is made of. Compound complex sentences. So for compound complex sentences, sentence types can also be combined. A compound complex sentence contains at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. That means it consists of a compound sentence and a complex sentence. That's why it's called compound complex. You know, the definition of compound says at least two independent clauses. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Aha. And the definition of complex says one independent clause and one dependent clause.
Yes.
So when you now combine these,
yes, sir.
It's called compound complex sentence. And we're going to look at some examples now. Let's look at the first example. She completed her literature review, but she still needs to work on a method section, even though she finished her methods course last semester. So let's look at this. Let's look at this sentence. So this is an example here. It says, she completed a literature review, but she still needs to work on her method section, even though she finished her methods course last semester. Now, he said this must consist of what? At least 2 independent clauses. Can you find out the 2 independent? Yes, and at least 1 dependent. So can you find out the 2 independent clauses in this sentence?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What are they?
The independent clauses are she completed her lecture review.
Her literature review, okay. What's
Literature review.
yes, where is the second one?
She still needs to work on her method section.
Okay.
That but
Anyway,
that
Now
conjunction.
that but, yes, that but, if you say but she still needs to work on a method section, that is a dependent clause, okay?
Yes, sir.
Then, but if you say she still needs to work on a method section, that is independent. If you say she finished her method course last semester, that is independent. But if you now say even though she finished her method course last semester, that is what's it called?
Dependent clause.
Dependent. So let me bring up another example. See. Let's look at this example. Example 2 on the compound complex sentences. So, although he organized his sources by theme, he decided to arrange them chronologically and he carefully followed the meal plan for the organization. Now, the first one says, although he organized his sources by theme. Is that dependent or independent?
It's independent because of the although.
No, it is
It's dependent because of the
yes, yes. Then he decided to arrange them chronologically. Is that dependent or independent?
Independent.
Then he carefully followed the meal plan for the organization. That is also independent. If you did not put the hand is just joining it. Is that taken?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's look at another example under that area. Let's look at another example. So we say with pizza and soda at hand, they studied upper root for many hours, and they decided that writing in upper made sense. Let me just bring it up so that we can see where the comma is and where the need. So I think I might need to clear the screen for this one because it will be long. So now, with pizza, this is another example. With pizza and soda at hand, they studied upper. Are you listening?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, very good. So with pizza and soda at hand, they studied upper rule for many hours, and they decided that writing in upper made sense because it was clear, concise, and objective. Now, that's the particular sentence. Now, the note under it says, using some complex compound sentence or compound complex sentence in writing allows for more variety. Then you pay close attention to the comma usage in this type of sentence so that your reader is, easily able to follow the intended meaning. Now, let's go back to the sentence now. With pizza and soda at hand, that is with pizza and drink. You understand me? Pizza and drink at hand.
Yes, sir.
They studied upper root for many hours, and they decided that writing in upper made sense because it was clear, concise, and objective. Here we can say, with pizza and soda at hand, that is dependent clause. Yes or no?
Dependent. Yes, sir.
They studied upper rule for many hours. That is an independent clause.
Independent.
They decided that writing in upper made sense because made sense. That one is even an independent clause. Now, when you now say because it was clear, concise, and objective, that is a dependent clause. Is that okay? Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm going to bring up some questions now. You have to identify the dependent and the independent. You have to identify the type of sentence it is, whether it is a simple sentence, complex sentence, or compound sentence. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So let me keep bringing them one after the others, like exercise. So exercise. So here's the first one. You can write it down and I'll bring up the second one. Number two. So I'm bringing 5 sentences so that you can. Number 2. So now number 3. Number 4. Number 4. And the 5th one, let's see. So the 5th one is here. So you have to identify the type of sentences each belong. Then we round up the class and continue the next session. Just let me know when you're.
Is it
Yes. You said what?
and complex? Between simple, compound, and complex.
Compound and complex, yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So once you're through, let me.
Sir,
Yes, I'm with you.
at that number 4, is it Amy or
Let me see.
any?
What? I said number 4, right? Ami is
Yes,
a
sir.
name. Yes, is the name of somebody.
Okay, is the
Ami.
name.
Ami, yes.
I'm done, sir.
Okay, what is your answer to the test?
We took a taxi home after the theater.
Yes, what's the answer?
Simple.
Simple, that is correct. Simple sentence. So, what's the answer to the second one?
The policeman was not impressed by your ability. It's simple.
It's a simple sentence because it's just one independent clause.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what about the third one?
As soon as I heard the news, I rushed. As soon as I heard the news, I rushed straight to the policeman. Complex.
Complex. Why do you say it's complex? Maybe you should just.
No, sorry, compound.
Why do you say it's compound?
Because it has two dependent clauses.
Two dependent clauses? No, it has only one dependent clause and one independent clause, and that is compound. Okay. Okay.
Amy watches football on the.
Yes. Amy watches football on television, but she never goes to a game. So, what kind of sentence do you say that is?
Complex.
No, it's the same compound because it's the same thing with what it's the same thing with number 3. The only difference is that, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
The only difference is that number 3 started with dependent clause, while number 4 started with independent clause. Okay? Is that taken?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's compound sentence.
Second.
Now, what about the last one?
Number 5. If you give.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, but I can't see you.
Okay, okay. It's the network that caught that. The last sentence is a complex sentence. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to cut this now and resend you the link for the next subject. So just stay tuned.
Okay.
All right. What was our last topic or in government?
System of government.
System of government. No, that was federalism in Nigeria. Was that so? Federalism in Nigeria, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So I'll be sharing the screen with you now. Please, like I said, before each class, over the week, find time to go over the lecture video and the notes so that you can be well equipped with the details of the notes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, is that taking?
Yes, sir.
And so we looked at some things. Did I give you any question that you should like practice?
No.
Oh,
Just for coming.
just the notes. Okay. I think I have a question here that we can look at. The question says, let me try and see. I'm bringing out the question. Okay, the question says, state two problems confronting Nigerian federalism. Maybe you should write it down. Then, against next class, you should answer it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
State two problems confronting Nigerian federalism. Then number two, highlight three features of Nigerian federalism. Highlight three features of Nigerian federalism. Yes. So today, we'll be talking about meaning and purpose of election. What did I say we're talking about today?
Meaning and purpose of election.
Yes, we'll be talking about meaning and purpose of election. So whether we do not come to the end of the notes, whatever we're able to do, we will continue during the next class. So you've heard the term election before, yes?
Yes, sir.
So what do you think election means?
Election can be defined as a process whereby people have the privilege to select the people that will select the people that will take them in power.
Okay, that will govern them. Yes or no? Okay.
Yes.
So then it is not selection, it is choosing. It is what? Choosing. So to choose, they have the privilege to choose those that are going to be in official position, that are going to govern them. Okay, I'll be sharing the screen with you now that we look at the details of election, the meaning, and the purpose of election. So let me share stuff with you. I believe you can see this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Meaning and purpose of election. Election.
I've not seen it.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Meaning and purpose of election. Election is the method or process by which people vote to choose a person or group of people to hold an official position. Election is used also to make a collective decision or express an opinion, usually following discussions, debates, or campaigns. That means there will be a discussion, there will be a debate, there might be some campaigns before election. Is that taken?
Yes, sir.
Now, in a democratic state, elections are used to fill vacant posts. In a referendum, plebiscites are held to ensure people's opinion forms part of the government. And the voters who vote in an election, they are called electorate, while the people to be voted for are called candidates. So take note of those points. Yes, take note. Now, next thing is purpose of election. Number one, elections are held to fill vacant seats in government. At the end of the tenure of a government, there is need to organize elections to fill vacant seats. Number two, election is the process by which electorate express their views, opinions, or attitudes. That is, their view about the current government. If they are happy with the current government, they vote for the candidate of the same party. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
But if they are not okay with the way the government has performed, then they express their view, they express their opinion and attitude towards by voting them out. So that's it. Then number three, popularity and acceptability of candidates and political parties can be measured through election. So election is used to measure acceptability of a particular candidate or popularity of a particular candidate or acceptability of a political party or popularity of a political party. Then the next one, election makes it possible for those in government to give account to their stewardship. So bad government can be voted out. Is that taken?
Yes, sir.
Then it offers a smooth and peaceful method of changing government, thereby ensuring political stability.
Yes.
Then the next one, it promotes a wide scope of political participation. Since it's an election, anybody is eligible to contest. So it promotes wide scope, not just a family or a lineage. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So the next one is that election promotes political enlightenment through campaigns, through political debates, through discussion. This may in the process lead to the resolution of some national issues and draw national integration programs with the government. For example, they have been talking about referendum, they have been talking about a lot of things in Nigeria, which a particular candidate might campaign and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the country when I am elected. Then it can help to resolve public issues and guide government in making informed decisions. So if a government is voted out because of some reason, then the incoming government will not want to fall victim of that. Then the last one there, it gives legitimacy to the government that emerged. Through election, you have the legitimate power to govern the people. Not that you just force yourself on the people, but the people has given you the power to govern them. Now, the next thing we look at here is types of election. Types of election. There are two major types: election, direct and indirect. So we're going to discuss it further later. So direct election. Direct election involves the voter casting their vote directly in a political election for candidates of their choice, and that will represent, for their choice, and that will represent them in either the executive or legislature without interference. What are we talking about here? Direct election involves the voter casting their vote directly. There's no interference, there's nothing, nobody speaking on their behalf or standing in for the voter. The voter casts their vote by themselves. That is direct election. In an indirect election, the candidate or representative are not chosen by the voters directly. The electorate first elects an electoral college, that is the people that will represent them, which in turn elects the representative of the people. And that is what some countries practice. Some countries practice votes. They practice votes. Like US, they go on electoral college and also public voting. There are other types of elections. We have primary election. It is a first or preliminary election usually held within a political party to appoint their own delegates that will represent that particular party in a national conference or in a national election. It is when the person now emerges from the party that the person is eligible to be voted for across the nation. Referendum. A referendum is a type of election where people vote yes or no on public policy or on an important political issue or question being raised. E.g., a proposed constitutional change. Referendum guides government decision. Okay, do we need to change the constitution? Yes or no? So some people will go for yes, some will go for no. If the number of yes is more than the number of no, then they can now review the reasons for a change or what kind of change is needed. Is that taken?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We talked about plebiscite the other time. This is a type of direct voting in a state in which the people vote to agree or disagree with a given policy or question of public importance. E.g., a proposed constitutional change, boundary dispute, constitutional change, boundary dispute, issues of minorities in political setup. It is also a yes or no. So referendum, yes or no. Plebiscite, yes or no. Good. Then we have by-election. This is a type of election conducted to fill vacant elective posts due to disqualification, due to death, due to impeachment, due to resignation of the individual holding that office. So, if by any reason or for any reason there are vacant positions due to any of these reasons, then there is conduction of a by-election. This type of election is only conducted in the constituency where the vacancy occurred. Therefore, only registered voters in that particular constituency are allowed to vote, and the winner only serve for the remaining period, not for a complete political term. Yes, tenure. Now, hold on, please. Let me. So, this one is the process of recall or recall election. In this type of election, voters can post elected officials, executive officers, or judges before their official terms have ended. Yes, so an election follows immediately to fill that vacant position. Maybe for any reason the person has been hosted out of the office, then election held. Then there are other terms that we need to get to. Suffrage. Meaning of suffrage, evolution of suffrage, and conditions of exercising suffrage. So that is different from election. This is another topic. Suffrage is now under, it's a subtopic under election. Suffrage is a right to vote in a public or political election. It is the inalienable right of citizens to vote in an election. This is granted to only qualified citizens who are of the voting age of the state and have met other qualifications as defined by the law of the state. So the right of a particular person to vote in a public or political election is called suffrage. Is that taken?
Yes, sir.
So other qualifications may include, apart from citizenship, citizenry, it may include residency, mental balance, registration, property, gender, and education. Franchise. These are terms related. Franchise is the political right of a qualified citizen to vote and be voted for in an election. So the term franchise and suffrage both refer to the same thing, the ability and the right of someone to vote in an election. While franchise encompasses the right to vote or even to be voted for in an election. Now, history of evolution of suffrage. Before the 1900s, different types of voting existed and suffrage was extended to a very selected few. That is, that right was given to a very selected few. Qualification of suffrage passed through several stages until age qualification was achieved in most countries. Yes, is that noted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so here now we're talking about history now. The terms associated with suffrage now. The types of suffrage. Suffrage, nobility suffrage, that is membership of association. In the medieval age in Europe, suffrage was granted to only the privileged noble class because of the position they occupied in society. So they believe these are the people that can vote. Then, property suffrage. Qualification of suffrage was lowered in the 18th century. Individual revolution in Europe saw the emergence of a new class of few rich men other than the noble class who demanded that suffrage be extended to them due to their newfound wealth. They now become popular and they are demanding for this right. This was granted, resulting in the privilege being granted multiple voting rights. So this created its own challenge. Then male adult suffrage. This type of suffrage existed in the late 19th century. Male adult citizens were allowed to vote. All social impediment or restriction on adult male citizens from voting were removed during this age. Then the next one we'll talk about is adult suffrage. In the early 20th century, adult suffrage was extended to women in Belgium, 1918 in Great Britain, 1920 in the United States of America, 1939 in Italy, France, and Japan, 1954 in southern Nigeria, and 1979 in northern Nigeria. So it was extended in those years. So these are good dates to take note of when adults started voting in certain parts of the world. Then universal adult suffrage, which is unlimited suffrage. Unlimited suffrage is a right for all qualified citizens, male and female, to vote and be voted for, irrespective of their sex, irrespective of their religion or race or economic standing. So that is what the topic we have been talking about since. We cannot finish up on this topic, but we're going to continue with it next class. So do you understand what has been explained today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is where we'll be rounding up for today. And I want to encourage you, please, as I'm sending the link, because I will send the link to the two latest by Monday. I'll process all the links to send. So when I send the links to you, please do go over them. Create time to go over them. You can download them, so that you can watch over and over offline. The more you watch, the better equipped you are. So thank you very much for joining today, and we're going to be meeting next week by God's grace. So goodbye, folks.